Do we know what guitar and pickups were used for tracking?
This is an American Strat. It is like my go-to guitar for practically everything. These have just been settings that are in my like standard guitar chain all the time. It's just get rid of any noise. If there is any, I try to be very particular when we're tracking all the DIs. JST clip to just boost it into the amp sim. For this tone, we have the Gojira Fatso on the wow, whatever. Yeah, Fatso setting on the wow pedal. And this is what this is sounding like. So we have a little bit of the high octave coming through still on there. And then in the amp settings, not too much of a difference here, you know, not running any insane gain because the guitar is already like the DI is being maintained from compression and the right playing and everything. We can actually go a little bit less on the gain, which I think is the smarter route to go. If you start having a ton of gain on everything just becomes problematic. And also the more gain that you add, the less articulation you're going to get out of that guitar playing or that guitar part. If we just make this a big fuzzy saturated mess, it's like where's the pick attack in any of this? So I like to run less gain on that. The lows just as is, mids and highs a little bit pushed. The master, this is something that a lot of people I think don't realize. Like in Neural DSP does a great job of this. In an actual amp, how loud your master volume is going to affect how the amp is working and how it sounds. And the same goes for these neural plugins. Or actually, sorry, it's the master right there. I feel like it's most noticeable in the Nolly one. Like if I go into the Nolly like 5150 on there and start it's like I can get several different tones out of just adjusting the master volume on there. Because it's like if it's cranked all the way, it's just kind of blown out and wild. But if it's like halfway up, it just sounds wimpy. So we could probably dial that back a touch. And then I have the EQ on in here, boosting about 4 dB at 8K before we go into our amp here. And for the amp, using GGD Zilla cabs, I have a few settings that I've really enjoyed. I've liked their newer cab sims that they've put out as well. This is usually like my go-to for a lot of indie. I mean, obviously the Murray stuff, but indie, alternative, pop rock. This is where I normally live. But yeah, we're running these settings on here. So just basically angled cab with that Friedman, however you want to say it, set up on the first two. And then there's this MD421 with a different setting here, or different speaker. Let's see how. So that last one is like giving us that low end. We'll start doing I'll get both these guitars going here and we'll start running some effects on them to get them dialed in. It's worth noting, probably the guitar bus that's on here, everything is running through this. There's basically just 2 dynamic EQs that are here. It usually just ends up being like that nasty ringy stuff that's coming through, and depending on the tones and everything, I will just take this and move it, along the frequency spectrum and dial that in. I pretty much always have some sort of little frequency, or dynamic frequency band on the low end here. And depending on, on a track like this, there's not a lot of chugging, so it just kind of stays there. And then I just feel like I don't ever need anything above that, like 16K area. I could even be lower because it's just noise. And then that lastly is going into Soothe again. So okay, so let's get this bad boy dialed in. So yeah, everything will be going through that chain. I didn't really go over the SSL EQ here. So Soothe, if you didn't see, dedigitalized software amp, you have to always dial this, specific to the tones, because the actual setting itself kind of sucks. It's just very spiky, like very sharp. I try to never do a super harsh sharpness level on Soothe because it starts to degrade the audio file. I'm always trying to just notch it to one area and just make it sound as smooth as possible, and not start just shredding up the guitars. Because if we're on a really harsh sharpness, I think it actually even says in here, higher values make the notches narrower, but introduce more artifacts. So you always have to be careful when you're throwing this on a bunch of stuff. I'll even go in and dial the attack and release settings, because I'm just like, I just want it to be a more dynamic EQ where it's going to catch stuff like how this is. It's not, the Pro Q is not going to move if for some reason this harsh frequency comes down here a little bit lower. It's not going to move. Soothe is going to move. So that's my usage for it, is it's just like catching stuff that I could not do with a normal EQ because it's moving all over the place. Actually, we'll just create this from scratch so you guys can watch, because I have a general idea of where this is going. So yeah, once I found this compressor for guitars, I was like, I can't go back to anything else. Favorite thing of mine as well is Decapitator on guitars. Not a lot of it. I think this E channel is like based off of the Chandler preamp, and I don't know, there's something about putting this on guitars. It just brings them to the front and adds this like really nice EQ curve to it. Like it sounds fake there, and then you put it on and you're like, oh shit, sounds more real. It sounds like it's blasting out of the speaker. Brings like that fuzz and everything forward. So we'll copy this onto the other side. And then EQ, let's see what this is. This is what it was. I kept this here because I was like, I know that we did some pretty specific things. So it's taming a lot of the fuzz. We'll leave that off for right now because I think it sounds cool the way it is. But I know when we were putting this together, all of this stuff together, you'll start to see, we have those octave guitars that are there now. And here, let's give that a listen, and then we'll go to the layering so you guys can start to see maybe why those EQ cuts were done. Next set of guitars, see if it falls apart. So these ones they're not single coil. These ones were the same guitar, that white Strat, but a cleaner tone so we can actually get some like spankiness out of them. Once I get one of these Renaissance Axe plugins going, I just tend to just copy and paste it everywhere. Oh, and I'll go over the tone real quick, how that was made. So this one, favorite amp sim ever, the Nolly archetype from Neural DSP. So this is where a lot of our clean tones come from. The bright switch on here is freaking sweet. I really like if I'm doing like poppy stuff, this is like just the tone every single time with the bright switch up, and then playing a little bit more reserved. So you can hear on there, pretty ridiculous if we start to bring that in. But this is the benefit of having a super clean DI. I can go in here and I can just dial the gain exactly how I want. Cabs on here, oh, it's a little bit different. So it's just another 57. And then these are just different speakers on here as well. So we can solo. Just kind of adding up the same thing, but slightly different each time. But it sounds freaking sweet. We'll put on a small room because I know that these ones had a little room. I've been liking this plugin a lot lately. The Seventh Heaven by Liquid Sonics. It just sounds freaking sweet.
Dude, that's a great plugin. One of my favorite reverbs.
It's like every single setting on here. Like I had my my standard like vocal verbs, and the other day, and a band was like, we used the London plate and they like changed the decay time, and I was like, I'm just gonna use my long reverb that I have in here. And I was listening to it and I was like, I'll give theirs a try real quick, and I threw this on. It was like blows mine out of the freaking water. Like this has just become a go-to now. It's made me like really rethink the reverbs that I've been using. I remember going back to Matt Huber again, because I watch his Instagram stories religiously. I remember he was like, you need to buy this plugin just for the large wooden room. And he was like, if you buy it and only use that, it will be worth it. Let me go over this tone real quick, and then we got a few more guitars in here. So same deal, Fab Filter, Pro Q3, the JST clip, doing the same exact thing. This is essentially same thing as the octave, the regular octave tone, except the depth is turned down a little bit. It's like we don't really need at more low end. It's coming together nicely. The high end on here, the 8K, just boosted a little bit more. And then probably same cab configuration, as the other octave tones. Took out more low end because I don't need that. This is the benefit of that Psy-Q again. I probably was working on it and trying to get this to sit in there and hold this up, and quick 2 clicks and you're done. So same kind of dealio with the Renaissance Axe, just crushing. And this too, so if you put this like super fast attack like this, you're not really getting pick attack. And that's what we wanted. It's like, just give me the noise and like the feedback and crazy stuff that's going on in between here, and take everything else out. So you can kind of hear, I mean, with it being that distorted, it's kind of hard. It's already just squashed the hell. But we've got that, and then got this EQ here. So really just notching out more low end stuff, 2.5, 3.9, and then was boosting some of that fuzz there, and that was just being a little annoying. So ducked it down. So the last guitars that we've got are these octave single coil ones in the verse. And these were from the demo, and I really fought to not have them because I was like, we tracked them. These are some of those guitars where it's like you track them in the demo and it was like, it sounds really cool. And then if you try and change anything about it, it's like, it doesn't sound the same. So this is what they sound like just with the amp right now. So there's still noise and dirty shit in there. So before, this is what it was, because we have that breakdown that comes after the chorus. So I added in on that white Strat with the humbuckers a little bit more beef mid-range, doing those same chugs, because you can hear when it's just these. They've got kind of that scoop sound. And then in the verse there, brought those down. We'll get these leveled out a little bit more too. So same octave tone on these that we've gone over several times. A lot more 8K. That's probably the only difference in this single coil one. That was the same EQ curve that we've got on going on that one in the bridge. So let's go ahead and just bring over our Renaissance Axe setting that we had, bring over our Decapitator setting that we've had going.